Hello, welcome back to another pineapple video. This time it's on something that's very near and dear to my heart, and we will not be talking about my farewell today. We'll be talking about Batman Chronicles. Now, I'm not sure if you ever played this game or even picked up this TTRPG, but as you read the title of the video, this is a countdown list. So I'm gonna just say it's a TTRPG about Gotham. Its guidebook has literally everything you need to know about Gotham. And do I recommend picking it up? Yes, I do. Now let's get into the countdown. 7 things that got my players addicted to Batman Chronicles. Let's get it. One thing that got my players addicted to Gotham, it was what Nazi scientists rejected during World War II, and that is the ethics system. This game has a great systems of ethics and order within the game, which just allows people like you and players like yourself to force upon either a +10 or an edge. I'm pretty sure, I can't remember which one by heart here. For a role, like you can just say, hey, I want a +10 for this role because it's aligned with keeping order, or I want a +10 to this role because it's in line of keeping anarchy. What it does is it makes sure your character moral impact and his moral implications onto the world can actually give him some type of mechanical advantage, right? So the little girl you save, you get a +10 to keep in order, so you can save that little girl. I think it makes it far more interesting this way, and my players do think it does too. Now, do they use the ethics system? No. Here's why. They find myself to be a cruel man. They find myself to be a cruel man and to be a crueler mistress, right? That's because when you use a point of ethics, right, the DM can then in return say, hey, that is going against your ethics, so you have a -10, or that's going against your ethic, that has disadvantage. So let's say you have a 1 in order and a 1 in anarchy or some shit, like 1 in order and a 1 in crime. And let's say you're doing something that would far go beyond that 1 in crime. I can say, hey, you have disadvantage of doing that thing. No, you cannot just kill that guy. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. That's how the ethics system works. I like it. My players like it. Now, do they use it? No. But will they force other NPCs to use it? Yes, they will. They will force other NPCs to not cross their moral boundaries and call ethics. They would be like, hey, shouldn't he get a +10 for this? What's his ethics looking like? That is good. I like that. All right, now let's go down to number 2. See how I elongated that number 2, guys? See how I elongated that number 2? See how my lighting's still bad? See how nothing literally has changed other than I may have some fancy editing techniques? Yeah, the fancy editing techniques is putting up JPEGs. Now, what is a power ceiling, right? A power ceiling would be the maximum level a player or parties can get to. Now, the power ceiling for this game in particular is fucking huge. I love this power ceiling, and I love how the game categorizes certain levels, right? So you can be on the higher tier of Streets of Gotham, which is the lowest rank in the game, right? The lowest kind of thing, which just means you are like a common crook or a common gangster, right? Or kind of common, semi-common. But you can be on the tippity top of there and still be as weak as the lowest shadows of Gotham person, which means you're a costume baddie, you're a costume crime fighter, or you're a costume order fighter. You know what I'm saying? That technically means you're super in some sort of instance. You get that, brother? So what this means is you can have situations where a character that's from Streets of Gotham who's really strong and a character that's from Shadows of Gotham who is decently middle tier can interact with each other and not just fight each other, but actually help each other if the time may need. It's giving like those few times where like Batman works together with Two-Face. Like that's in my mind how it like gets in my mind, which I'm pretty sure those times don't necessarily exist, but I do know Batman will work with his villains to get a higher goal. So the Streets of Gotham, the Shadows of Gotham, and the Wonders of Gotham each have their own power ceiling meaning that players can reach a certain points or certain levels up to that point, and it just allows them to do more. You know what I'm saying? Allows them to do more, allows them to fight more, allows them to talk more, and it gets it so that players don't get a big head, right? If you're a common critic, someone's in Shadow of Gotham mode, yeah, you probably shouldn't, PvP that guy, or you probably shouldn't harass that NPC just yet. Take time. It's providing a wall for them to go over before they hit a spike trap, I guess, right? Because how I think this game is meant to be played, in my personal opinion, is that you should have free reign of Gotham. You should probably find quests throughout Gotham, and although that is fine, I don't think it should be super railroady. And to stick with that railroady, to stick with that non-railroady element, what you need to have is some type of wall stopping people from doing OP stuff, right? And this is how it's done, in my opinion. This is the system how it's done. Streets of Gotham, Shadows of Gotham, Wonders of Gotham, all different technical levels of play, Wonders being the highest, Streets being the lowest, and then in between there, you actually have certain points that divvy you up, right? Which is your stat attributes in your Ways of Wonder. Beautiful. A self-mechanicus wall that a DM doesn't have to throw in. Yeah, we love that. We love to see it. Now, I'm gonna mention a phrase here that may have some of you guys freeze up, but let me tell you this. This is a safe space. We respect and love women here. SA. So what SA means in the context of this game is it means special attack, right? Special attacks is based upon you rolling a movement, like a dexterity or strength to like jump or flip or to do something, right? And then based off that margin of success, once the DM declares the TN, based off the margin of success, you get a plus to your hit, right? So let's say this, the TN is 10, right? And then I say roll that dexterity. If you want to do a special attack, you roll it, you get let's say you get a 15, right? That means you have a +5 to your next attack, right? So you then attack that guy. How is this so good? How is this something so worth mentioning that some of my players hooked onto this? Well, within this game, there's a thing called critical success. And a lot of games do this, a lot of TTRPGs. A way to get a critical success in this game is to get 10 above. So even that +3 that you get for risking that special attack, or that +5 you get, oh, that's a huge bonus. Not just to hit, but just to get above their defense. Beautiful. Add that on with the next mechanic we're going to talk later about, then you really have yourself a combo room. Really have my people feeling like prime Captain America, prime Batman. That's why I like it. And another thing I like it is you get the same for failing. If you fail, hey, that margin of failure, that's going to be added on to your plus. So let's say you have a +5 to hit, you have a +3 to margin of failure, you have a +2 to hit. Booyah. I like it. It makes for a I think it makes for a system where you have to interact with your environment. And this is me speaking from a DM. I'm not a player. I think it makes for a system where you have to interact with your environment, which I think is good. I think more players need to be interacting with their environment, jumping off of things, throwing things, doing all types of flips and shit. And that in itself, that system within itself, kind of makes you feel like Batman. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of makes you feel like a Gotham archetype character because you're doing all sorts of flips and stuff just to pow, 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 get that margin of success. That's wonderful. That's good. That's beautiful. I love to see it happen. And I just wish more TTRPGs had that. I wish the Marvel TTRPG had something like that. That would be nice. But let's move on. Yay! Have you ever lasted too long? I cannot relate with that. With additional actions and endurance, this allows you to practically limit the amount of rounds and actions that a player can take within combat, right? Let's talk about their endurance. I'll talk about additional actions later. So what it does is it takes your constitution before mod, your constitutional value, right? It divvies that by half, and that says, then it says like add +5 to it or something like that. You guys can read the rules will be on screen. Then that allows you to, right, go up to that extent of rounds. After you go over that round threshold, you start to take a -1 to all rolls, right? Why is this good? Why do I find this good? your character's getting tired. What? What's not to love? Fighting all night. You know what Batman did in Arkham Knight? You think that shit is easy? Have y'all ran a mile lately? That shit is hard. That shit is some hard shit. And all I do is drink Dr. Pepper all day. I won't last more than fucking 5 rounds. Shit, my girlfriend knows I can't last more than 1 round. So with that being said, yeah, this is awesome. I love taking real life mechanics and throwing that shit into a TTRPG, right? Because then I feel less ashamed of my physical performance. Nah, but actually it does limit round, make sure it doesn't drag on too far, and it gives a exit for your players, right? Sometimes players do not like to run away. This gives them a reason to actually run away. If a combat's taking too long or a combat's not worth your time, and this is part of my whole idea, which is you should have another goal other than fighting the opponent. Run the fuck away. It does not matter that much. Run the fuck away, man. Get out of there, right? And you can encourage your players to do that with the endurance system. They take a -1. Okay, time to run away. Look, I'm tired. I'm going to take a break. Or you can have them take breaks in combat, which is nice. Have them take cover. Have them try out different mechanics that allows them to calm down. And just say, yeah, I count that as like you can remove 1 endurance point or whatever exhaustion I think it's called. And then additional actions. This is when your dex and your speed reaches a certain level. You actually get 3 to 4 more actions. You can do a turn. What that just means is once your actions are above a group of guys, like once your speed is above a certain group of number of guys, oh yeah, you're going 3 or 4 times. You are a party unto yourself. 6, 7. So you cannot just. I just think that's cool. That is super Batman-y. Batman's super quick, so you go. Put some Arkham Knight gameplay here so people understand what I'm talking about. Like. That is some stuff that he does. That is some real stuff that he does. So I think that's really cool. So, yeah, man. Let's move on. My players also like it because I have endurance for enemies as well. So they'll just mid-combat and be like, you know what? I'm tired. What's the best part about being Batman? And that is not the use of toys. That is the building of toys. Right? So you got all these different mechanics you can use to actually build armors and weapons, right? This game has a materialization mechanic, it has a inventor mechanic, and it has a mechanist mechanic, as in like you can like take apart guns and like make new guns, right? It has all that within the one gadget system. So this is more like a brief overview of the gadget system as a whole, which I think is generally wonderful, right? Because you can take the inventor way more than once to get new inventions, to get new captivities in a way, and then you just level those up. You just level those up separately. That's awesome. That's cool. That's cool. Why don't more games have something like this? Probably more games have. Maybe I'm limiting the games I play, you know? But I think that's awesome. Being able to actually build your own suit, being able to actually build your own weapons, and this goes for vehicles as well for you car nerds out there. I'm not a super car guy, and the rules on cars are a little bit iffy, but if you know about cars, if you could add more to the car stuff, yeah, dude, go ahead. You know about the knowledge, you got the knowledge, do it. And this game allows you to do that with the scientist, mechanist, and inventor system. Thank you. That's all I'm gonna say, because you guys need to use it to understand how good it is. Plus, the dogs are starting to bark. So, I'm gonna pause here. Thank you, though. 1d12 system, right? 1d12. So, now, split a 1d20 in half. You think it makes 10? You're stupid. It makes 12, right? What the 1d12 is, it's technically, it's a system encompassing the fact, encompassing the fact that you are weakened or impaired at the moment. So what that means is, let's say this, voice crack. Let's say this, someone punches you in your liver. I would say, well, your next roll, because of that liver shot, was so grandiose, that's a 1d12. And then you roll it like it's a 1d20. You roll it like it's 1d20. Or if you're weakened, if you're actually weakened, you roll a 1d12 instead. If you use the other hand on something, guess what? You use a 1d12 instead. It makes it so people can't do double attacks and not facing the repercussions Plus, if you want to use your entire turn to attack, you roll a 1d12 instead. For both attacks, if you want to attack with both hands, making everybody technically a dual wielder if their plus is high enough. And is that awesome? Is that cool? Do I find that to be radical? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do find it to be cool. My players find it to be cool. My players love this because it means that they can dedicate their whole turn to attacking one guy, and them actually jumping that one guy will actually mess them up. Now, I will say this, right? 1d12, getting a 1d12 or forcing someone to use a 1d12 can be achieved in several different ways. I think the best way is if you do damage, which, I noted before here, if you do damage higher than their constitutional value, not mod, higher than their constitutional value, they actually become weakened. It's called a serious injury. They actually become severely weakened and they are forced to roll a 1d12 or to leave combat, which means, yeah, you just broke someone's leg. I think that's cool. That's an awesome mechanic to have, especially with the exploding dice mechanic. If you guys don't know what exploding dice, let me summarize that real quick. It's when you roll damage, and if you roll a max damage on that dice, then you get to roll damage again. It technically means if you're on a roll, yeah, now that guy's gonna fall. That was actually pretty good. That was actually pretty clever. Oh my God. Maybe I should put that on a shirt. If you're on a roll, that means, if I'm on a roll, that means you're on a fall. Oh, wait a minute. I'm so clever. All right, guys. That's not 7 yet. I don't know why I said, all right, guys, like that. We still got one more. So we're going to do that one more. I actually want to get a little bit serious here because I can't really tell if this is a good mechanic or not. I like the mechanic because it fits the themes of Batman. It fits the themes of Gotham, which this is a Gotham game. But I don't think there is enough description in the madness category that allows a person to get an in-depth knowledge of the quote-unquote mental illness that they are taking on, right? So with that being said, this could be, depending on what players you have. I have really good players. Depending on what players you have, though, this could end up being tasteless as shit. But it's up to you as a DM to sometimes extend the hand and do the research for the player to make sure they are interpreting whatever mental illness they got correctly and not being just a caricature. And if they refuse to do that, I'm not really sure. That's where it gets a little gray. You can either take the high road and be like, hey man, you gotta go out of my game, or you could just take the mental illness away from them and say, hey man, now you're just like, now no one knows what's wrong with you. You're Super Saiyan in that case, right? But I like the madness mechanic because it fits the themes of Gotham. My players love it because it fits the theme of Gotham. When I say you inherited some madness, my players start quaking in their boots. What's it gonna be? When did I hear it? Or when I say your NPC gathered some madness after being thrown in a chemical vat, they look at me and they say, hey, you didn't mention there was a Joker in this game. What was this guy name again? And I look at them and I just start laughing and I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah. I didn't say there was a Joker in this game. And we all sit in silence for a couple seconds because now they realize they accidentally made the Joker. Now, has that scenario happened? No, but that scenario is going to happen. Now, do my players watch my videos? Maybe. If you do watch my video, if you guys do watch my videos, and my players do watch my videos, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. If you don't, what the fuck, guys? You guys are supposed to be supporting me on and off the court, on and off the DM thing. I spend an hour or 2 hours of my life, DMing for y'all, and y'all can't just watch a funky 12-minute video. And that hurts. That hurts. I'm just playing. No hard feelings. But the madness mechanic is actually really interesting, and I do like how it's done. There is, from what I've read it and from what I remember reading, there is no mechanical bonus. It is just something you're supposed to RP out, and the game kind of hopes that you RP it out successfully. I just wish there was a little more deeper description on what these mental illnesses are, so then the players can play it. And I'm not sure if mental illness is the correct term or not anymore. I'm not really sure. But I mean mental illness in the most respectful way possible. Thank you. That that is 7 things my players like about Batman Chronicles. Now, as we go on to end the video, I'm gonna list 7 things I like about my girlfriend. Her boobs. 2, her personality. 3, her beautiful face. 4, the way she sometimes dances. She does like little chibi dances, like you know the anime chibis. That's kind of cute. So 4, 5, I'm pretty sure she can dunk. She just never tried. 6, she's really good at cooking. 7, she's never once yelled at me in Spanish in a serious matter, which I do respect. I'm dating a Dominican guy, so you know that's a high praise right there. I haven't gotten yelled at in Spanish. I either haven't done anything bad enough yet to, or she just haven't felt it was necessary. But I am planning on, hitting her with the car very soon, so we're gonna see if that works out. No reaction. All right, guys, that's the end of the video. One of me, I'm about to make a name for myself. I saw my daddy's dick ready.